Merry Christmas. I know the holidays can be a very difficult time for grief, and today we're doing a special episode about how we have coped with grief during the holidays. I invited some of my previous guests to share their thoughts on this, and I'd like to share my experience as well. I know the holidays can be really difficult, especially if someone's passing occurs close to a holiday, or even when it's associated with a birthday or other celebration that's normal in a family. And Christmas can be especially hard. The first Christmas after someone has passed away is really, really difficult because you're left with feelings of dissatisfaction, knowing what Christmas used to be, and then having to somehow manage this new special holiday without the person that you love. It's really difficult. In my own experience, my husband passed away in May of 2021. The date isn't necessarily associated with any kind of holiday, but his birthday was June 8th. And then Father's Day almost always came about a week after his birthday. So, ironically for me, that combination of having his birthday followed by Father's Day just a week later was always really stressful. It was hard for me to think all year long about what I was going to do for his birthday and then turn around and do something special again a week later. That was kind of tough. But when that first birthday of his came around, which was only a few weeks after he passed away, I was lucky because my children happened to be, several of my children happened to be there with me at the time. And one thing we decided was that we wanted to go celebrate his birthday, and we had a great day. We had a lot of fun doing something that made us remember him, think about him. We listened to a lot of music that he would have liked, and we did things that he enjoyed. That made us feel close to him. Father's Day, I was worried about, again, came right away. What we decided to do for Father's Day was something we had never done before. I found an Airbnb and at a ski resort that it was summertime, so it wasn't being used for skiing, but people would rent their cabins. And anyway, we went up to this beautiful place in the mountains for Father's Day, and again, just celebrated that he had been in our lives. It was a really good thing for us to do something new and different. I know for some people that might not be the best answer, but for us, doing something new, unique, different was really a key to getting through the holidays in a positive way. And even the Christmases since he passed away, we've done unique things. We've gone to other places. We've had a vacation together. We haven't really done a lot of things at home. That might change next year, but even this year, I'm meeting up with my children, and we're gonna have a vacation together. So doing something new for the holidays has been a really good thing for us to do. I want to share something that Shanna Miller shared with me. This comes from the Dougy Center. It's DOUGY.org is how you can access that. They have 8 great tips for getting through the holidays. I'm going to share those with you. A lot of these tips are things that were shared with my previous guests. So you'll hear some of these over and over again. First, they say to plan ahead, which is a fantastic idea. Look forward to what is on the calendar and really think about what you want that to look like as much as you can. Number 2, they say, don't let other people determine what you should or shouldn't do. This is a fantastic piece of advice, and again, was mentioned several times. You are grieving. Grief itself is a big enough thing to be dealing with. And how that looks for you and how you're going to make it is going to be determined by you. Number 3, they say accept limitations, which means you may not want to do what you've done before. Talk to the people around you and let them know that you might have to limit things. And, you know, just because something looks different doesn't mean it can't be really, really wonderful. Okay, number 4, they say celebrate different feelings and preferences, meaning that even within your family dynamic, people are going to have very different ways to deal with their feelings and their expectations around the holidays, and that's okay. So having some flexibility in your thought, having some charity in your approach can really, really make a difference for people who are grieving during the holidays. Number 5, this was a great one. Be informed before attending events, which I hadn't thought about. Specifically, they say find out who will be there, how long it's expected to last, whether you need to do anything. This is great. Just having a little bit of information. For example, if you've recently lost a child, maybe attending an event with a lot of children the age of your child would be really, really hard. Or maybe the opposite. Maybe it would bring you some joy seeing that children are celebrating. So knowing a little bit about what's happening can help you to prepare. Number 6, they say ask for help, even when it's hard to do. That's always good. Number 7, take care of your physical body. Of course, that is always, always a good idea. During the holidays especially, it's taxing on anyone. Number 8, I think this one might be my favorite. Find ways to remember and honor the person who has passed away. And these are some ideas that they give. I want to share these because I think that they're wonderful. Some ideas to consider: light a memorial candle, invite children and other families or friends to share their memories. Write a card or letter to the person who passed away. I actually have done that on my late husband's birthday, on our anniversary, Valentine's Day. Those different days when I would have normally sent him a card, I have still gotten a card, and I've written to him telling him about my life now, what's happening with me, how I feel about him. That's been a great thing for me to do. They also mention write memories on strips of paper, use them to create a paper chain. I think that's a beautiful idea. I think we might do that this Christmas. Hang a special decoration in memory of the person. Buy a gift the person would have liked and donate it to a cause important to them. Gift wrap a box and make an opening in the top for family and friends to share written memories. At a special time, the box can be unwrapped, and as a family, you can share those memories. That's a really fun idea. Set a special memorial place at the table during a holiday meal. Now, that's a suggestion here. I think that would be harder for me to do, because I think sitting and looking at that empty space, it's one thing when you're setting a place for Elijah, but I don't think I could sit and look at an empty place where Steve should be. That would not work for me. But again, these are suggestions that obviously works for someone. And part of the point of this is knowing what works for you and brings you joy, makes you feel closer to others, closer to the person that you've lost, rather than feeling more isolated and more sad. Another idea is to create a memorabilia table or corner where you can place photos, toys, cards, foods, other mementos from the person. Now, I wanted to share, my sister-in-law has a fantastic tradition that she does every Veterans Day. She decorates in her home with photos of different people in her life that have passed away that were veterans. And so she just recently asked me for a photo of my late husband, Steve, in his military uniform. And I know that in her home, there was a picture of him sitting with other photos of veterans, her mom, who was a nurse, and her dad, people that she loved. This is such a neat way that she honors the veterans in her life that have passed away. And then the last suggestion from the Dougie Center: cook one of the person's favorite meals. I love that idea. That is a really, really fun thing that you can do while you're thinking about the people that you love during the holidays in a positive way. So, again, I hope as you listen to these other suggestions that they might give you some ideas, but also help you connect with others in a way to know that you are not alone in how you feel during the holidays. You may physically feel very alone, but you are part of a group of people who understand you. And especially people who have lost others are really good resources. Reaching out to someone that has had a similar experience can be a really positive way to share the burden of grief during the holidays. It's really hard. It's a hard burden to carry alone. You're not alone. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the new year. For the new year, I found that it's a really good time to kind of reset, to plan ahead, to make some new goals, to try some new things. Here are some things that I found really successful. I was able to determine that the hardest time of the day for me was usually night. And so one of the things that I did was I was able to find a friend who had lost his wife. So I had lost my husband, he had lost his wife. And the two of us became really good friends. And we had a long time ritual of calling and talking to each other a lot of times in the evening, during that time when your spouse would normally be there. And that was a really great thing for me. The few months after Steve passed away, I found that I really, really appreciated having those long talks with my friend, and we went through a lot of the phases of grief together. And he's still a good friend. I'm really, really grateful for that. Another thing that happened was with this nighttime loneliness. I have 4 brothers and 2 sisters, and I told them that I was really struggling. Just even putting myself to bed at night was really, really hard. It felt so strange, you know. I just wanted to put a tidy end to the day, but it's very weird and hard to do that by yourself. So my siblings started taking turns calling me and tucking me in at night. They would call me, usually around maybe 9 o'clock at night, and we would just talk about the day. And then having that little bit of closure to the day with them was a really special time for me. And all of us became much closer, and we got to where we really, really looked forward to those conversations. So I think as you find those really hard times, filling that time with the presence of another person who cares about you is a very, very helpful, positive thing. But again, sometimes these are things that someone wouldn't know intuitively unless you tell them. Especially for people who haven't gone through the same kind of grief, they're not going to be able to guess what a person's needs are. So being willing to say, I feel lonely at night. I'd love to talk to somebody. People who love and care and are compassionate are always willing to share and to step in and to be kind during moments of need. It's part of what they've developed in their character. So knowing that, I just really don't feel shy about telling someone that I need their time and attention and love. And I've been really, really blessed by the association. Another thing that I realized was that I was very, very lonely on the weekends. During the week, I could have a routine, and that routine would fill a lot of time, and I was able to do things that were meaningful. But the weekends were naturally a time for relaxing, for family, for new things. And so what I started to do Friday evenings, my sister's children, she had 5 children, and they were still young enough that they weren't involved in a lot of extracurricular activities and things like that. And it was still fun for them to come over and have a sleepover at their auntie's house. And so for several months, my little nieces and nephews would come over on Friday nights, and we would watch a movie and have pizza or something like that. And that was a lot of fun for me. And they really brought a lot of joy to me. I have great memories of that. And then, they got a little older, they had more involved in their lives, and I became more involved in other ways. And so that tradition kind of slipped away, and that's totally fine. But it was a wonderful thing. And then on Saturdays, I started having a game night at my house. And most Saturday nights, I would have people over for games. And I intentionally did not just invite widowed people. I didn't just invite single people. but I intentionally invited people from different walks of life and different circumstances because I really wanted to um, to integrate people together of different backgrounds and experiences. And I found that that was a great experience. What I found was that most people are enthusiastic about gathering with others, especially for something fun like a game night. They're just waiting to be included and asked. And so I didn't mind at all being the gatherer. And I have fantastic memories of having people over on Saturday nights. And the other positive thing about that is that I never had to wonder what I was going to be doing on the weekend. I kept myself involved and talking to other adults, which was a really positive thing. And having a game night was easy. It didn't involve, I didn't have to, you know, do a lot of preparation other than have a space available and invite people. And people almost always wanted to know what they could bring. They'd bring little snacks or treats, and we would just have a nice time. And then build those relationships, those friendships. Sundays were a lot of times the hardest thing because that is such a traditional family day. And especially when my children were all living somewhere else and I was all alone, it was really, really helpful for me to have my sister and her family who lived here. And I would have them come over for dinner on Sunday nights, or I would have my parents who also lived nearby over on Sunday nights. And one of the good things that did for me was that it gave me an opportunity to cook a meal. I used to cook a lot and enjoyed cooking, but cooking for yourself is boring. And having them over to cook a meal was a really good time for me to reconnect with something that felt like a normal part of me that without Steve was, not satisfying. So for the New Year's, these are my suggestions. Consider it a time to create new memories, to make new friends, to find a new you, and embrace that as a challenge that that you can totally form to fit who you are, your personality, your needs. But do something new, do something that maybe is challenging for you, but a good challenge. It'll make a big difference. And be the one to choose to bring these things into your life instead of waiting for someone to bring you into theirs. Also in January, I'm going to be taking a break, and the Good Grief Believer podcast is going to have, a little break while I spend time with my kids and grandkids over the next few weeks. But come February, we should have some new guests on the podcast and hear their experiences. In the meantime, thank you for listening, and I wish you well. And again, have a very Merry Christmas.
Most recently, I found the information from Dougie Center, which is the National Grief Center for Children and Families, very helpful. As I reviewed it, it reminded me of many of the things we tried to do that first holiday season after our daughter Lynette died. And the 8 items they mention are planning ahead, don't let other people determine what we should or shouldn't do, accept that we will have limitations, celebrate different feelings and preferences, be informed about attending events, ask for help when it's hard to do, even when it's hard to do. Take care of your physical body and find ways to remember and honor the person who died. We did variations of all those things, both with our first daughter who passed as a baby and our daughter who died as an adult. And even though this center specifically is for children and families, this information, I think, is wonderful for anyone who has the loss of a family member that they are grieving, especially during family gathering times, which for us are usually Thanksgiving, Christmas, birthdays. And when you have those falling almost right on top of each other, it can be very overwhelming. So again, I think that the advice of planning ahead, looking, even though you may not want to, looking ahead at what activities you might want to attend, and maybe decide which ones you're going to avoid. And that's okay. That's really okay. And sometimes when you have other family members that you're trying to support, you forget to perhaps take care of yourself as an adult. And you need to make sure you do that as well. My thought is that it's harder to take care of others when you're not filling your own reservoir. And when you're grieving, it just seems like there's a big hole, and it's hard to get that reservoir filled. Some of the things that we do to honor those that have passed, we do hang Lynette's Christmas stocking, and we often review old family videos, which is what we would do anyway, about previous holidays. We also eat food, because you usually do when you gather. And some of those things were favorite things of Lynette's too. I find that, as this will be the 14th holiday season with Lynette gone, that while it still aches, the raw grief has abated, and that is huge, because 13 years ago, I did not think that could ever happen. So choosing what you want to do, planning together as a family, that can help. You're still going to have triggers. You're still going to have those things that you think, I've got this all handled. And then you'll hear a song, or you'll look at a picture, and boom, you're right there. So being aware of that, I think, while it's still going to be awful when you're going through it, to realize that I'm probably going to have something that triggers me helps you to prepare. Information gathering, looking to see what's worked for you in the past, letting others know how you're feeling when appropriate. Too, I think sometimes we just figure I'm just going to be silent and just suffer through it because I don't want to impact anyone else's holiday. I think it's fair to say, hey, I'm here with you. I'm having a bit of a hard time now, but I do want to be here with you because I care about you and love you. It's, again, more of an ache than a throbbing pain now, but finding ways to cope, healthy ways to cope, I should say, will keep you healthier in the long run. I appreciate this opportunity to share some thoughts and to also look at my plans for what we're going to do this year.
As a woman who dealt with unexplained infertility for 8 years, I feel like I've lived through grief a lot. I've had a lot of holiday seasons during that time. And every year around Christmas, I would just always convince myself that next year would be the year. I can look back and think of a lot of times where I would be hanging up ornaments and just imagining that next year I would get to put up a baby's first Christmas ornament. But as the years wore on and more family members got married, I started to dread the next family get together. And I imagined that people would be announcing pregnancies and babies coming into their life. And I will definitely admit I had some unhealthy coping mechanisms, like maybe an extra glass of wine or 5. But I also figured out some things along the way that I think helped me navigate the holidays that I wanted to share with you guys. For me, I think there are 2 main areas of concern. One was the family get-togethers, and 2 was the innocent scrolling of social media and just having things pop up unexpectedly that were really sensitive and triggering. So let's start with the family get-togethers. So first, I would say I think figuring out which events are okay to say no to and which ones you feel like are mandatory is a good starting point. It's okay to say no, and that's not going to work for me. Someone once told me that no is a complete sentence, and that felt like a lot of freedom because I didn't feel like I had to explain or justify why it didn't work for me, just that it wasn't going to work for me. For the events that I really felt like I couldn't get out of, or honestly, maybe I even wanted to go to. I wanted to go have fun. I wanted to experience the holiday spirit, but I had some anxiety of how I would feel when I actually got there. What I would do ahead of time is let the host know that I was really excited to come, but I didn't know how long I could stay because I had a really overwhelming work week and I needed some downtime, or maybe, and a lot of times this was true, I had a lot of holiday preparations I needed to do myself, or maybe I had another commitment afterwards. Sometimes I would actually intentionally plan something so that I could feel truthful in saying I have to leave and go to this other thing. And what I found is that sometimes people would be upset that I was leaving their event early. And at first that upset me. I didn't want them to be upset. And then I had to realize that I was not in charge of their feelings. I was kind and nice in the way that I said I had to leave. So I'm in charge of that and how I communicate to them. But they have every right to be upset. They're entitled to their own feelings the same way that I'm entitled to feeling overwhelmed and like I need to leave. So that helped me feel like I had a sense of control if I needed to extricate myself from a situation that I felt uncomfortable with at those mandatory family events. I guess I should also say, sometimes at family events and other holiday parties, I would get angry at myself for not being able to just be normal. And with counseling, I learned to pay attention to my feelings and see them as just feelings, not good or bad, just feelings. And when I tried to make myself feel different is when I would get angry with myself. Like when I would see somebody announcing something on social media and I would go, you shouldn't be upset with them. You should be happy for them. That's when I would then feel guilt and shame and anger, is when I tried to make myself feel a different way. Instead, just recognizing that feelings are just feelings. They're a guide to what's happening inside. They're not something that should be judged. That really actually helped me feel less bad about the way that I was feeling. So that kind of brings me to social media. I wanted to be happy when I'd see the posts of baby's first Christmas, or the best gift we could ask for is coming and X time next year. But honestly, I was not happy for my friends. I was pissed. And then I was ashamed of being mad at them. And then I was depressed of being ashamed of being angry. And like I had just said, taking a deep breath and just accepting the feelings actually made me feel a lot better. It didn't make me feel like I was a terrible person, because that's how I felt. Like, you're a terrible person that you're mad at these people for having such a wonderful blessing come into their life. So instead of trying to be not angry, I just would say to myself, hey, you're pretty upset right now. It's hard to watch other people get what you want, and it's okay to be angry, and just accept the feelings that are rather than trying to change them. I had personally always imagined taking family pictures in matching pajamas, and I'd walk into stores and I'd see the jammies that, were all cute and matching, and it would just make me want to cry and leave the store. Or I'd see the matching slippers that said Mama Bear, Daddy Bear, and Baby Bear, and I would feel my heart just drop, like that pit in your stomach. And I hated feeling that way. It felt like I couldn't go anywhere and I couldn't do anything without experiencing that intense pain around the holidays, because everything is wrapped around family. And so much of family in America is a mom, a dad, and 2 kids. That is like the picture on every holiday poster. So what strategies did I employ to cope? First, say no when you need to, like I already said. I would also say be willing to tell a friend, hey, I really need to go do something fun. And just ask if they're willing to just go have fun with you. Go see a play, go look at lights together, get out of the house, even if it's just go for a walk. Movement is medicine. It releases a lot of endorphins. And even just a walk around the block has a way of making you feel a little bit of light and hope in what could have been a really sad and overwhelming time. I also started volunteering. There are so many organizations that do Christmas specific things, especially for like low income families. And I found a few in my local area that needed volunteers. And I loved doing that because I loved being around kids, and watching the kids experience the joy of Christmas was really fulfilling. And it changed my feelings from being angry and sad to feeling joy and feeling a little bit of hope and gratitude that I got to participate even just a little bit. I also started to create our own traditions. And honestly, it's embarrassing that it took me so long. But a few years ago, I realized I didn't have to wait for a baby in order to do matching jammy pictures. So I got my husband and my dog and I matching jammies, and we started doing pictures every year. And we even found a Santa who was dog friendly and did Santa pictures with our pup. As unfun as it sounds, the last thing that I would say is find time to sit in your feelings. Like, that doesn't actually sound enjoyable because a lot of the feelings are unfun feelings. They're uncomfortable. But something about curling up with a blanket in front of the fire with a cup of peppermint hot cocoa and my laptop, and I would just journal. And I would explore my feelings and why what made me angry that day? What made me happy that day? Why was I upset about this? Why did that trigger me? That comment that, your aunt said at that holiday party, and like how that made you feel. And like just putting it on paper made my feelings feel like they were real, and somehow helped me just accept that they're just feelings. And that really helped me move on to the next set of feelings rather than like ruminating on the same thing over and over and over again. The holidays are hard because they make us face our grief. I think that the rest of the year it's easier to just kind of shove it aside and be busy with like life. But the holidays really make grief stand out. I hope that this holiday season, you feel everything. The good, the bad, the sad, the happy. Because feelings are just feelings. And something I am still working to accept and try to acknowledge in my life is that if you want to feel happy, you also have to let yourself feel the sad. You can't only pick to feel the good things. I am still working through how to actually do that rather than just doing the tasks of life. So this holiday season, feel things. It's okay. And remember that no is a complete sentence. Happy holidays.
Julie, I'm glad you're asking us to do this, to share some thoughts of how to deal with grief during the holidays. I know that many can have an especially hard time during the holidays because you miss your loved one or many loved ones, and you miss your traditions and time together and those wonderful memories. I know I miss my brother and my sister and other loved ones, especially during the holidays, and you miss that they're not there to see these other events with other family members and friends. But I always try and find the reason for the season through all this, where I'm grateful that, especially with Christmas, as we celebrate the life of Jesus Christ, that because of him, we will see our loved ones again. And that gives me a lot of peace, even though I miss them. And I hope that others can find that too as they learn more and focus on Jesus Christ. It helps with the grief. It's still there. It can be very sensitive for many people, especially as they feel more lonely through the holidays. I also try and remember our fun traditions together, but also try and create new traditions where new traditions, new friends. It doesn't mean that you're forgetting that person or that loved one, but they would want you to be happy and to celebrate new things and to celebrate the wonderful seasons of Thanksgiving, of gratitude for our many blessings, and also Christmas, of that time to focus on Christ and to love others and serve others. And so I'm hopeful that as we try to find those new traditions and those new opportunities to remember the joys in the season, it helps us grieve better. It's still there, and especially for folks when they are freshly grieving, it can be really difficult. And I hope that helps, because again, I just think it's a wonderful time of year to reflect on family and love, and also to build and to move forward as best we can, because that is what our loved ones would want us to do. So thanks again, Julie, for asking us to do this.
Hello, my name is Christine Harden. I am 34 years old and I'm a San Diego native. I'm here to talk about grief, how to deal with grief during the holidays. This year for me especially is a really hard year since this is my first year having to deal with grief during the holidays. I recently lost my baby girl, Indy, in January 2nd, 2024. So this is something new to me and I'm learning how to deal with this. And I know I'm such a newbie at this, but I've learned so much throughout the past few months on I learned so much how the holidays can trigger someone during this time. And I wanted to share what has helped me through it all. So the first thing I would say is to honor your feelings. Just allow yourself to feel whatever comes up. And, if it's sadness, anger, confusion, or even moments of joy, allow yourself to feel it all. Grief isn't linear, and you don't have to push away any emotions, especially during this time. Holidays can also bring up memories and expectations that can really intensify the grief, and it's okay to feel it all. And no one should have to make you feel if it's the right or wrong way to feel, because I feel like you have the ability to feel whatever it is, because I feel like people should be gentle with you during this time, and they will understand. Well, most people will understand on the feelings that you're going through, because this is such a big thing to deal with grief. And especially for people who have lost someone in their life that is really close to them, or even a baby, like, people should have an understanding and being gentle with you during this time. The second thing I would suggest that has helped me, that I've been noticing throughout the holidays, is to create a ritual. Recently, my husband and I did a Christmas photo shoot for Christmas cards this year, and we wanted, or I especially wanted, to honor my baby girl, Indy. And so I got her little pink teddy bear, which I call her my Indy bear, which, by the way, for lost moms, this is a great way to, honor your child by getting a teddy bear or whatever represents your child. And we put our little bear in our photo shoot with us, because it's honoring my baby, and it's a way of, like, not showing people that she is still a part of our family and she will never be forgotten. So that's one of the rituals we've done. I also feel like during Halloween, that was really intense, because it was during infant and pregnancy loss. Like, that whole month is about infants and pregnancy loss and honoring those of losing a child. I got a white pumpkin, which is something that is representing infant and pregnancy loss, and I decorated it for my child, and something that I thought she would like. So that's another way of starting a new tradition. Thanksgiving, also, I'm going to light a candle for her, because it's showing that her light will always be there, and that's how we're gonna honor her during Thanksgiving. Also, just, for Christmas, I feel like putting up a little stocking is also another way of honoring my baby. I've learned, doing things to honor her and making it a personal ritual for me. I feel like it's something that will help me get through the holidays, because it's honoring her in a way and letting people and her know that I'm never going to forget about her. And it's something that I feel like it will help me get through this hard time without her. Also, another thing I feel like I've learned, especially this past month, to give myself permission to say no. I know during this time it's been a struggle for me to, especially for my mental health. If I feel like if it's too much energy, if it's too much emotion, if it's too hard on me, I'm going to opt out, because I'm struggling with grief during this time. And I feel like it's okay to opt out, especially during something that you feel like it's super painful, like gatherings or traditions that feel too painful during the year, or just limiting your time to it. I feel like my mental health and my well-being is so important that I need to put myself first during this time. And that's okay, because during this time, I feel like you will definitely have a moment. You need to give yourself a moment for sure. And to, if you can't be there presently because you're so intensified by grief, I feel like it's okay for you to opt out, and people need to be understanding. Well, most people will be understanding, because they all know that having to lose a child is so hard. And if people don't understand, just know you don't owe anyone an explanation on the way you're feeling, or or why you're not showing up. I've learned that if someone is making you feel uncomfortable, and it is kind of like making you feel like your mental state is kind of just being pushed. I feel like you you really don't have I realize for those who are pushing you to the point where it's like, okay, I feel like my mental health is being at risk. I feel like for you, it's okay to opt out on that too, because it shows that they're not here for you and they're only here for themselves. And I've learned through a friend that, I was talking to her about this. If anyone is like going to, if you're speaking your truth and telling people, if this is too much for you and they can't understand it and you lose a friendship, it's honestly not a loss. It's more of an alignment of where you should be and to like by putting yourself first. So I've had this situation happen to me before this past few months. And I've learned that, I have to put myself first, and it's okay to put myself first, because during this time, this is like, since this is my first year, I'm still learning how to deal with these big emotions. I'm still learning how to deal with not having her here with me. And if people can't understand it, they're not there for me. And, that's probably something that I should, as friends, they should definitely, especially during something this big, like losing a baby, like if they can't even be there for you, then it's not worth your time. Second, or another way of dealing with grief is setting boundaries on traditions, which it's okay to be able to skip a holiday tradition, and that's fine. I feel like it's easy for someone to for someone to forget that you're going through something, and sometimes we have to remind people like, hey, this is something that I can't do, or that I feel uncomfortable. I'm just gonna can I give myself some air or something like that, just because it's so hard right now for us as well, for losing a child. Another thing I've realized that during grief, during the holidays, is I need to remind myself to take care of my body and to take care of myself physically, because grief does take a physical toll on you. Sometimes we decide to eat not so great food, and sometimes we are like go go go. We need to remind ourselves to slow it down. I need to remind myself sometimes, I need, especially for me, I like to go and eat too much sugar, and that is so not good for you. And of course it's going to make you feel sick. So I've also made sure that instead of just, I'm constantly making sure that I'm making the great decisions so I don't feel like icky during the holidays, especially during this time. Another thing I've also realized is to reach out to people when I need to. The holidays can be a really emotional time, and sometimes talking to a counselor, one of your friends or your support group, they will give you so much good advice, especially during this time, because for me, I've gone to my support group, and I've also got the help from a lot of the women that have gone through what I'm going through right now. It's been very helpful, because there's things that I'm trying to learn how to deal with, people who don't understand my grief, and people who, or how to deal with the traditions that are gonna trigger me, or how do I deal with shutting down talking about something that I'm not ready to talk about, things like that. I feel like it's good to start going to it's good to talk to people and kind of get their opinions on what the right way to deal with. It's good to talk about it, just to just not feel alone as well during this time, because I think during this time we can sometimes forget that people that are going through something huge and are being triggered by these holidays and traditions, I feel like it's good to talk about it, because it's something that the way you're feeling, someone else could be feeling the same way during the same situation you're going through. So I've also learned too, you don't have to explain to anyone the way you're feeling or your grief style, or, why you have these big feelings, or why you didn't show up to like dinner or something. I feel like if someone's making you uncomfortable and trying to push you to make you feel like you're doing it wrong, I feel like they're not there for you. They're only there for them. So that's another thing I've learned throughout the traditions. So I hope this helps someone that is going through grief like I am. I know I'm a newbie at this, but I've already learned so much throughout the months of like dealing with this, and I hope I can help someone else. Thank you.
Hello and blessings, everyone. My name is Pastor Vladimir from Pilgrim Slavic Church, and today I would like to share how you can cope with grief during a holiday season. What can help you do that successfully is refocus your attention. We are approaching not just another holiday in a year, but the special holiday. It's a Christmas. It's a birth of God, Jesus Christ, who came for people, for us. Matthew 11:28 says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Today I would like to advise you and suggest you to rest in Jesus during the holiday season. Trust Him. When angels said to people, "I bring you good news that will cause great joy for all the people," you are part of those all people that newborn Jesus brought the joy. So I would encourage you to find joy in Jesus during the holiday season. Trust Him. Ask Him that He would fill you with the joy and take the grief away. You have nothing to lose. You're already grieving. But there is another way how to cope with grief, is to refocus. Refocus on Jesus. Refocus on what He came to give to all people, is real joy. Joy in Him, in living God. So may the Lord bless you and help you experience this joy during this holiday season. And may Jesus help you in this. God bless.
Hello, everybody. My name is Rafael, and thank you, Julie, for inviting me to participate. And for all of you who are grieving during the holidays, I just have to say to you that it's okay. That even though everything feels odd during these dates, it's okay to feel that way. But I also got to tell you that the most important thing is to be thankful. Be thankful of the memories, be thankful of the time you got to spend with that loved one, and be thankful of all the beautiful memories you experienced. Don't see it as making it through the holidays. See it as living the holidays and remembering how fortunate you are to have loved and how fortunate you are to have been loved by that loved person. I know that grief can be tough. I know that grief is a terrible experience to go through, but it's also one of the most clarifying and beautiful feelings that you can have after the moment, because once grief starts to clear away and to peel away, because it's like an onion, like Shrek says, once it starts to peel away, everything that gets in is the beautiful memories that you got to spend with that person. So I wish you all happy holiday and a happy new year. Much love.
Hi, this is Chris Frazier, and I just wanted to share my best advice for surviving the holidays. I came up with 3 kind of general ideas. The first is to find a way to remember your loved one via rituals. For example, when our 2-month-old daughter died in 2019, That was in May, and that following Christmas, we were trying to decide how we were going to remember her. And we heard of the stocking project, which is where you hang a stocking for the child that you lost and then collect letters and pictures and just things from people that want to write her a letter. Your family can do it too. We did. My husband and my daughter and I wrote letters to the daughter that we lost. And then on Christmas Day, after we were done with all of the hubbub of opening presents and all of the happy, we sat down as a family and just went through each of the letters in Emily's stocking. And it was a really, really meaningful experience for us. But the next thing that I want to say about that is, if you feel like that is just too much and it's too many feelings, it's okay to not do anything to recognize your family member that you lost. Like, it's important to just allow yourself to feel whatever comes up, because you never know how the holidays are going to hit. Some years it might be easier, some years it might be harder, and there never seems to be really an explanation for why that is. It just is. And so it's important to just let yourself feel however you're feeling, and if you feel like you just don't want to do it that year, that's okay. We still hang Emily's stocking, but we don't do the letters anymore because over the years, it's been about 5 now, we've started to get less and less letters each year, and that's been kind of hard to accept, right? Like, people move on with their lives. Like, it's not their kids, so naturally they're not going to every single year for the rest of forever remember to write a letter to my dead baby, right? And so it kind of became a little bit more like a reminder that time was marching forward. And so we still hang her stocking, but we don't make a big deal about the letters. If people do write them, great, that's fine, and we do that. But it's not a big thing that we put a lot of stock into, because it was starting to create too many opposite feelings of what we were trying to go for. So I guess just find a way to remember your loved one as it feels appropriate. Another suggestion was to reach out to others that are having a hard time, and just don't be afraid to feel your feelings with other people. I know it's really vulnerable. Sometimes with grief, we want to just hold it close to the vest and not tell others, but chances are someone else is also grieving this holiday season. And if you just reach out and find your people who are safe to talk to and safe to feel your feelings with, it will be a lot easier than just trying to tough it out and, not reach out and ask for support. So definitely reach out to others. And then the last thing that we like to do is to do something for others in honor of the person that died. So for the first few years after Emily passed away, at Christmas time, we would buy all the types of things that we would have bought her at the age that she was turning. So when she was turning 1, we bought 1-year-old appropriate gifts. When she was turning 2, so forth. And we donated those things to the Children's Hospital for another child who was turning that same age that could have a little extra Christmas cheer. So just an example, but find ways to do service for others in honor of the person that you lost can really provide meaning and hope during an otherwise difficult time. Best wishes and happy holidays.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Good Grief Believer podcast. I believe we grieve better when we share our experiences with others. And I am always eager to hear from other people about their unique grief journey. Please contact me if you would be willing to share your perspective with me as a guest on the Good Grief Believer podcast by emailing me at goodgriefbeliever@gmail.com. That's GOODGRIEFBELIEVER @gmail.com. I look forward to hearing from you soon.